Dear students, hello and welcome to this training program. Today we are going to look at the speaking module in the IELTS exam. Speaking is the last module in the IELTS exam, whether it be a computer-based test or paper-based test. I'm going to share my screen with you now and explain the speaking module in detail. I hope all of you can see my screen well. Speaking is a test which is done one-on-one between the examiner and the candidate. The structure of the test is the total test time is between 11 and 14 minutes. There are 3 parts in the IELTS speaking test. That is part 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 is called the self-introduction round or the general introduction round. Part 2 is called cue card topic, and part 3 is called the discussion on the cue card topic. Every test would be recorded. These are the 4 criteria on the right side of the screen. They are the assessment criteria a candidate is assessed on: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, pronunciation. Let's look at these in detail in the upcoming slides. Here are some general tips for you while you do the speaking test. You are not supposed to give one-word answers for part 1 and part 3. You're supposed to talk in sentences, at least 2 or 3 sentences. You have to speak coherently. Coherence and fluency comes together as one assessment criteria. Coherence means you have to speak clearly. You have to speak clearly with your natural accent. Please do not put on any accent. You're not expected to have a native speaker's accent. So you just have to be natural and spontaneous. And even if you make mistakes, please continue talking. Just apologize and continue despite making mistakes. The speaker will tell you, the examiner will tell you when to stop speaking for part 2 in the cue card round. You will get 1 minute time to prepare and you will have 2 minutes to speak. Until the examiner stops you, please do not stop speaking. Also, you're not supposed to ask the examiner to change your topic for the cue card because you're not allowed to ask, and the examiner is not allowed to change the topic for you. So in part 1, they'll ask you some general questions about yourself. You have to answer in 1 or 2 sentences. In part 2, you will get a cue card topic with 4 bullet points. You have to prepare for 1 minute, cover all the bullet points while speaking, and just elaborate on all the points as to whichever you can do. You can just create ideas. If you don't have any ideas, you can make up stories, you can create, and be very creative here in this part 2. And you have to be fluent. Avoid overuse of fillers, avoid repetitive words, don't use too many etc. And don't use repetitive words like so or like or or people say you understand, really, simply, actually. All these are different forms of fillers. Also, you're not supposed to give too many long gaps. A pause is okay. If you're thinking and talking, it's natural. We can't speak like robots, but you can think and talk. You can have pauses, but a long gap is something they call it if you are quiet for more than 3 seconds. So avoid long gaps. Be audible, be loud enough, because the entire test is recorded, as we saw that in the earlier slide. So you should be loud enough for the examiner to hear you and for the microphone to capture your voice. Maintain eye contact and smile in between. It's always good to be pleasant. It also reduces your stress and your anxiety when you smile and speak. And use only formal language. Don't use informal words like child. For child, you say kid. Don't say kid, you have to say child. Don't use words like dad, mom, granddad, grandmom, bucks, stuff, etc. You have to use only formal English words and words with English origin. You're not supposed to use words from in your mother tongue language. If you have to use a word which is in your mother tongue language, you can always explain it in different words in English. And do not memorize your answers. Don't give fixated answers. Let it be natural and spontaneous. Don't try to by heart any answers and give, because you don't know, you will not know what kind of topic you're getting. Also, while you're practicing to speak, please use a stopwatch so it helps you to understand how much you can and how much time you need to speak. For 2 minutes, how many points you can include. So you get a feel of how much you've spoken for that 2 minutes. So during your practice sessions, during training at home as well, keep a stopwatch and learn to practice with the timer. Now let's look at a sample question here. This is just one of the sample questions. In every Cambridge English book, in every Cambridge IELTS book, you have 4 tests and you would have 4 sample questions like this. So here in part 1, they ask a person about the weather. Even though it's about the weather, it is about the weather in relation to the candidate. For example, what's the weather like in your country? So it's nothing that you need to prepare or by heart beforehand. You can just talk about the weather, how it is in your country. How do you experience the weather? Or does the weather affect your mood? That's again something very subjective. You know whether the weather affects your mood or not, then you can give an answer in 1 or 2 sentences. For example, which is your favorite weather and why? There again, there's no correct or wrong answer. It all depends. It varies, it differs from person to person. So your favorite weather could be summer. My favorite weather could be winter or spring. It differs. So what it is for you, you just speak about that in 2 or 3 sentences. Or they could ask you, what do you do during this time, during your favorite weather? What are the activities you do? For example, if you say summer is your favorite weather, you could say, I go swimming during the summer season, or I go on long rides or drives on the highways, or I go to hill stations, I visit cold places. So different activities you do. I drink cold lemonade juice. So there are so many things, activities you do during your favorite season. Now, when this is part 1, part 2 question could be like this. Describe an artist or entertainer you admire. So they're asking for an entertainer or an artist you admire. They're not saying that it should be a famous person. It need not be a famous person. It's just someone whom you know and who you admire. So the questions, bullet points below this could be like this. They just give us some outline to what to speak on, how to create the matter. You can change the order, doesn't matter. As long as you cover all the bullet points. They're asking about an artist or entertainer who you know, who you admire. So who is this person? What entertainment or what artist is this person? What does he or she do? How did he or she become successful? How did you find out about this person? And explain why you admire this person. These are all things about you again and someone you know. So you can create this, you can explain. If you don't finish if you finish all your points before 2 minutes and the examiner does not tell you to stop, please expand on any of these. For example, the second bullet point asks you how he or she became successful. You can add on to the points. Explain why you admire him or her. You can add on to the points. You can just elaborate. Keep talking until the examiner tells you to stop, or the trainer during training until the trainer tells you to stop. Please don't stop speaking. So they're evaluating you on your fluency, on your coherence, how clearly you speak, your vocabulary, that's your lexical resource, your grammar, and your pronunciation. So please remember, there's no right or wrong answer here again. Just be spontaneous and natural and talk. In part 3, they're talking about film personalities, which is remotely connected to part 2, but it's not directly connected. They're taking one aspect, one of the entertainers. One entertainer could be a film personality. So in general, they're asking you at depth. So in part 3, you're going to a deeper discussion at an abstract level. So you can talk even for 3 or 4 sentences until the examiner stops you and leads you to the next question. So they could ask you questions like this. They may not ask you all these questions. They could ask you 3 or 4 or 5, depending on the examiner. They could ask you, why are some film personalities so famous? Now you note that here it's not about you, it's about your opinion. Why you think some film personalities are famous? And why do you think some youngsters try to copy film stars? So in your opinion, why do you think young people like to copy film stars? And do you think it's a good thing or bad thing for the youngsters to copy film stars? What kind of influence do they have? They means the film personalities. What kind of influence they have on a person? Has social media made them more accessible? You can give your opinion on that. And you can also give your opinion on, do you think that public should have access to their private lives? So again, you note there's no correct answer, no wrong answer. It's all about what you think and feel. They just want to see your speaking ability. It's nothing about something that you have to prepare and speak. You have to have some knowledge on different general topics. It could cover sports or medicine, or it could cover art or film, or photography, science, entertainment, so advertisement. these could be the general topics that they would cover, but the particular questions could vary. So I hope this speaking session has been helpful for you. When you join our classes from next week, you will be having more videos and more PPTs shared with you in classes, and you can learn more in depth. But please keep practicing to speak. The more you speak, the better. It helps you to get fluency and gain confidence. And wish you all the best in your training and preparation for your IELTS test. Thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen with you now.